Thank you for the chance to be with you. Thank you for welcoming all of us into your holy space and into the holy space of this very special time of Ramadan. When I begin to think about what gratitude means as a person who's in the Reformed heritage of the Christian tradition, I begin to think that that's a very important word for us. We have three words that we use to summarize all of our biblical teaching and all of our theological traditions. They are the words guilt, grace, and the third word, gratitude. In fact, gratitude is so important to us that we remember the last meal that Jesus shared with his disciples. Many in the Christian tradition refer to it as the great Eucharist or the great Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is a very important part. I agree with my colleagues, it is hard. Gratitude comes from a heart that has to have purity within it in order to have the largest capacity for gratitude that you can have. In our tradition, gratitude leads to a couple of things. Gratitude leads to rightful worship. Gratitude is the feeling of the heart that looks upon all that God has given and is so awestruck that the heart and the person becomes humbled, reverent, grateful for all that God has done. And praise and adoration and worship is the spontaneous and immediate response of this heart that is learning to be more and more pure and is growing in its capacity to be more and more grateful. When we think about all that God has done for us in creating us and all that there is. In our Christian confession, remembering what God has done to redeem us through Jesus Christ. All that God does for us in preserving us by his hand and faithfully providing for us day by day what we need. Who would not be driven to their knees in an attitude of thankfulness, an attitude of gratitude? The Psalms, scriptures that are common to our books of faith, along with our Jewish neighbors. The Psalms are replete with expressions of spontaneous bursts of thanksgiving to God because of God's goodness and God's grace and God's faithfulness. In the New Testament, which is so formative for our Christian tradition, we remember the story when Jesus heals 10 lepers and he's amazed that 9 go on their way, but Jesus himself so gratified and amazed at the expression of gratitude that one of those lepers came back and fell on his knees before Jesus to worship and thank him for the gift of healing. And in the book of Revelation, which is a portion of what our Christian tradition has as sacred writings to describe the new heavens and the new earth, the transformed creation that we look forward to, there it is said that all of those who share in the heavenly chorus will join their voices together to sing, among other things, power and glory and might and thanksgiving be to our God forever and ever. Gratitude inspires rightful worship. But gratitude also inspires rightful prayer. It is said in one of the writings from my tradition, why is it that Christians need to pray? And the answer to that question in our catechism, our question and answer teaching mechanism, it is said that Christians need to pray because prayer is the most important part of gratitude that God requires of us. Maybe the word God compels from us is a better translation of that. Again, thinking of all that God has done, how it is spontaneous. But prayer itself becomes an expression of gratitude. How do you say thank you to somebody who's given you something? Usually we turn and we say thank you, right? But what if the best way to thank them was to acknowledge your dependence on them by asking for yet more? See, God's heart is a giving heart. God is merciful and gracious. Our confessions, our faiths confess together. God desires to give us more than we even desire to ask. So what better way to express our gratitude than to give God the opportunity to share out of His overflowing and abundant heart with us? For 12 years, I served as a Christian missionary among Native Americans in the state of Oklahoma. There in the southwest corner, I worked with a small group of people who were from Geronimo's descendants. Everybody remember Geronimo? Yeah, hear Geronimo? They were the Chiricahua Apaches. And the Chiricahua Apaches don't even have a word for thank you in their language. The Chiricahua Apaches say that if you say thank you to someone who's done something nice, then you close off the relationship. If you say thank you, then you bring something to closure. But if you ask for more, then you sustain that friendship and you keep it going. And in that way, prayer becomes an important part of gratitude to God, that we continue to acknowledge our dependence on God by recognizing all we have has been given by His hand, and so we humble ourselves and ask for more. The third thing that gratitude does for us is it inspires rightful living. It inspires rightful worship, inspires rightful prayer, but it inspires rightful living as well. Theologians in the 1500s and 1500s were reacting to a stream of Christian tradition that said that you obey the law because if you obey the law, then you earn your salvation. And this particular stream of tradition, of theological tradition, from which my heritage in the Christian faith emerges, says, no, what we do, what salvation we have is a gift of grace by God. But it is still important to live rightly. We don't obey the law because it earns us salvation. We obey the law because it is a way of expressing our thankfulness to God that He has changed us and transformed us and made us new, that God is working within our hearts to develop that purity of heart that would be pleasing and honoring and praiseful toward God. And so we keep our marriage vows, and we give to the poor and needy, and we serve those who are victims of natural calamity and disasters. We seek to develop relief programs for drought-stricken areas of the world, and we seek to offer kindness by opening the door at the post office for someone who's walking through and their arms are so laden with packages that they need a helping hand. Whether in small ways or global ways, we do all of that. We live rightly because it is a way of showing our thankfulness to God for the gift of grace He's given to us. Then there's just one last thing. That what I've been describing to you, this gift of gratitude, is really a way of describing a relationship that we have with God, but it is also a relationship that we have with our neighbor. When we approach other people with an eye and a heart of gratitude, looking upon them, then we are able to be humbled before them. We are able to look for that in them that can teach us something new. We're able to listen carefully in their words for the divine spark that reflects God's image within them, that we can be thankful for yet again, back upwards toward God. And so gratitude is really a gift of relationship. Rightful worship, rightful prayer, rightful living before God, and humble and genuine and respectful relationships with our neighbors. That is what I take from our Christian tradition, and I hope those thoughts are meaningful to you. Thank you again for your invitation to be with us.